think we see Willis coming up.
Anthony for three. Bang! Slicing, dicing right there. Swooping, hooping.
Houston ducks under. Got it!
Jeremy Lin does it again.
Johnson now fires a three. And it's good! And he's fouled!
7 feet from Georgetown. Number 33. Your captain.
This is Bockers Beat with Jeff Haber.
And now, please welcome your New York Knicks.
Welcome to Bockers Beat. I'm your host, Jeff Haber, and however you're listening, iHeartRadio, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, Spreaker, make sure you're following us, press that subscribe button, and thank you so much. We're also on Twitter, so if you can take a moment right now, head over to Twitter and follow us at Bockers Beat. That's kind of more of like another Knicks news source. We live tweet during games. We've picked that back up. So we're back in the New York groove, as Kiss would say. And we're giving you another Knicks news source and another place where you can go and interact with other Knicks fans. So again, that's on Twitter at Bockers Beat. And I'm so excited to have my next guest. Just like last week, our guest was best friends with my dad. And I don't think I explained this very well, but my dad did pass away 7 years ago. And look, if I can be real for a second, I'm going to try to do this without crying. This is like take number 7. The amazing thing about this podcast is that it's not live and I can re-record as many times as I want. But obviously losing a father is not easy. It's anyone who's ever been through it, they know it's very sad. And it's been hard. And I think what makes this even harder is that if I had done this podcast while he was alive, he would have been my very first guest. He would listen to every episode the minute it comes out, and he would listen to it on the way to work. And a lot of the questions that I ask, I try to think of, would he find it interesting? I don't say this, but this podcast is in tribute to him. It's for him. And of course, I wouldn't be a Knicks fan if it wasn't for my dad. That's something we share together. That's something we obviously bonded over. And that's the whole point of this podcast. It's not like therapy for me, but it's about the emotion of being a Knicks fan. It's about my guests telling these stories, because being a Knicks fan is unique for every single person. It's different for somebody who grew up in the 70s and 80s, and it's much different than someone who grew up in the 2000s. And hearing all the different stories of what it's like to be a Knicks fan, that's the point of this podcast, to hear their emotional stories. Like hearing about last week, Jay talked about what it was like to be at the O.J. Simpson game, Game 4 of the 1994 NBA Finals. Episode 2, we had Parker talk about what it was like to work with the team in 2012, 2013 when they made the conference semis. Episode 3, we had Ben talk about what it was like to sit courtside at a Knicks game. So all these stories are different. Thomas, episode 1, talked about what it was like seeing Michael Jordan play with the Wizards. I mean, these stories all have emotion, and that's what the heart and soul of this podcast is about. And yes, we talk about the Knicks' current events. We try to capture a moment in time, even though the time right now is not very good. They're not a very good team, but we try to capture that moment in time, and we try to bring it back with these emotional stories, what it was like going to games. And that's the picture I want to paint with every episode. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mark Fischl. And Mark, it seems like you're always on vacation. It's like a permanent vacation with you. Where were you last? Where are you going next? Come on, make me jealous.
We were in Switzerland for 2 weeks, and then Thomas and I are headed to Chile and Argentina right after Thanksgiving.
Man, that is so cool. I'm so jealous. But let's talk Knicks. We're recording this Sunday morning. This is before their game against the Magic. Their last game was a loss to the Pelicans on Friday. I was at that game. It hurt very much. I was so happy for 3.5 quarters. The crowd was so silent, and then they got all rowdy in the last 6 minutes, and it really sucked to be a Knicks fan in that moment, especially at an away game like that. But Fitzgerald, he's made changes to the starting lineup. They're still losing. What's your take on the team?
Well, I think that life in the NBA is not linear. So you don't just go from 20 wins to 25 wins, 30 wins, 35 wins to 40 wins. It doesn't work that way. And I very much like that they're willing to play all the rookies.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge step in the right direction.
Right.
So in terms of the core that's playing these days, virtually everybody is 25, 26 or younger. I mean, Knox is the third youngest player in the league. Nicolina was the youngest player in the league last year. So I like the fact that they're committed to the rookies, and I think they've really got some good organization for the first time in a while.
I mean, their starting lineup, let's talk about their new starting lineup. They've changed it up. So no more Nicotilia, no more Frank, and no more Dotson. They've moved to the bench, and instead they've put in Moutier, who had probably the best game of his career, 19 points in like 20 minutes. We've moved Knox in the starting lineup as well, gotten a little bit smaller in that sense. He's not a traditional power forward, but we're going a little small ball here. And I mean, what are your thoughts on this new lineup? Do you think would you rather see Frank in the starting lineup and Dotson, or would you rather see Knox and Moutier?
You know, at the end of the day, I don't care. It's about the guys that play well. Nicolina has shown some upside, but he just doesn't seem to play with enough aggressiveness from time to time. Where he's just so passive on the court, too willing to take the ball and pass it, not looking to make a play. You watch Trey Burke play. Every time the guy gets the ball, he's looking to make a play.
Yep.
And that's just simply not true of Nicolina, and I don't quite understand that. Now he's young, and he hasn't been in the league that long, and obviously he didn't have college basketball, so I'm far from writing him off. But I want to see some more aggressiveness. I watched some of the Warriors-Sixer game last night, and Kemba Walker laid 60 on the Sixers, and he's so aggressive with the ball, and he puts such pressure on the defense. Now, I'm not suggesting that Frank is the player that Kemba Walker is, but that's the type of aggressiveness I think you need to see more out of him.
Right, and I agree, and it's amazing to me because the one play that always seems to work is that like elbow mid-range jumper. He makes it every single time. Just run more of those plays that are going to build up his confidence that shots he knows he's going to make. It seems like every time he shoots a three-pointer, he has this look on his face like, I don't know if this is going to go in, and then he shoots it and misses.
One thing I like is he hasn't been hesitating. When he's had the shots, he's taken them. He had a really bad stretch where he missed 14 or 15 threes in a row over 6 games, and then he played a real good game when they won in Atlanta. But look, these are the growing pains you're going to go through playing a younger team. Will they win more games with Courtney Lee and Lance Thomas and picking up a veteran? Sure. But to what end?
Yeah, what's the point if this team isn't going to make the playoffs anyway?
You want to be the Knicks, you want to be the Washington Wizards.
Right.
Who are, just struggling mightily and have a much older team.
Let's also talk about, you saw the game against the Pelicans.
I did.
So I was at that game, and living here in Baton Rouge, went down to the game, and I enjoyed it very much for 3.5 quarters. We were up by 10 most of the game, and then we blew it at the end. And the play that just sticks out to me is we had a play where Alonzo Trier put up a really bad three-pointer. He tried going ISO.
Right. The left side off the dribble, I remember that shot.
Right, he couldn't really get a shot off. I think he lost his dribble at some point, ended up chucking up a three. And you're watching that play and going, how is this? This doesn't look like an NBA play. And I get ISO Zoe, and it can be amazing at some times, especially when he steps back and makes a jumper. But why isn't Fitzgerald, when he sees a play break down like this, just call timeout and just say, hey, let's put up something together, let's get Hardaway off a screen, let's make some sort of pick-and-roll play with Mitchell Robinson, let's create something here, instead of he just kind of watches the play fall apart, and then that's a pivotal play where we needed points. And we can
these are part of the growing pains of a young team. I mean, this is what you're going to go through. It's interesting you bring up Trier because I thought the dispositive play of the game was when Trier failed to block out Julius Randle on the 2 missed free throws from Anthony Davis, and then Randle sailed in for an easy putback.
That happened twice.
Very tight game.
That happened twice where they got an offensive rebound off a missed free throw, and it led to 2 points. And we lost by 5. And those are 4 points that should never happen in the NBA. Never.
Yeah, again, growing pains of a young team. I mean, that was just clearly a mental blurt by Trier. Randle wasn't even on the blocks. He'd lined up outside the circle and just sailed in for the follow. But this is what you're going to go through with a young team. You're going to go through mistakes. They need to learn to win. One of the things that troubled me watching the game was, and one of the criticism of Kevin Knox pre-draft was the strength of his motor. And everybody said, that's not going to be an issue. But you watched him matched up with Julius Randle, and Julius Randle simply ran over him. Randle plays with so much more intensity and energy than Knox does, and Knox just simply was ill-equipped to handle it and just got bullied every time they got matched up.
But Julius Randle is so much bigger than him. I mean, how much does he weigh?
No question. He probably outweighs him by 40 pounds. But just in terms of the energy and intensity, don't you think there's a huge difference between the two guys?
I do. I mean, I think Knox plays with heart. There was a play where they called Knox on a foul that I didn't think was a foul, and he got, I think this was the first time I saw him actually get upset with the ref and kind of throw his hands up in the air. And I think he plays with heart. I just think he's not going to, and Julius Randle is one of these power forwards that, I mean, he's going to outweigh most other players, but when you put up Knox, who's 215 and Randle's 250, Randle's going to back him down. It's 2 easy points. That's going to happen every time against anyone. If Julius Randle was up against if he was up against Lance Thomas or Hardaway or Courtney Lee, all guys who probably in that lineup would have played power forward, he would have just done the same thing.
Yeah, it wasn't a matter of what he did, it was how he did it. And I just didn't feel like Knox was prepared to meet that level of intensity.
I don't know.
That's one of my big concerns with Knox going forward.
I don't know if Knox has learned how to handle the low post defensively.
Well, he clearly hasn't, right?
I don't think he's been taught that because in today's NBA, how many guys post up, especially power forwards?
Yeah, it's clearly less of the game, although I watched Joel Embiid last night, and he's just a monster in that low post.
Right, and the Suns' new rookie, DeAndre Ayton, him too.
Yep.
I want to see more basketball like the 90s with Hakeem Olajuwon and David Robinson and Ewing.
Well, interesting in the draft, it was all big guys for the most part. 5 of the first 6 picks, 6 of the first 7 picks.
But how many of those guys are low post players? I mean, Jaren Jackson Jr. isn't, Bagley isn't, Mo Bamba isn't. None
Wendell
of them.
Carter plays in the post. Obviously, Ayton plays in the post.
Yeah.
You see Embiid playing a lot of post style. I mean,
Yeah.
to me, the game is cyclical. I don't see any reason the post players are going to come back. I mean, you talked about the Rockets and Hakeem. That whole team was built upon throwing the ball in the post to Hakeem, forcing the double, rotating it, and making threes.
Yeah.
The part of the game that I don't understand these days is I love the fast up-tempo style that the Suns have brought to the league. I mean, the Steve Nash teams, I read somewhere that the Steve Nash teams that Jerry Colangelo put together would be like, bottom third of the league these days in terms of shots selected. So I appreciate that. What I don't appreciate watching a team like the Rockets is how little defense they play. I don't understand why you can't play up-tempo and play good, hard defense.
But that's a D'Antoni team, and we know that firsthand.
Yeah.
D'Antoni teams don't play defense, and they just try to outrun their opponents. And I think that's also one of the reasons why Fitzdale put Moutier and Knox into the lineup is to speed the game up, to speed up our offense. And I feel like sometimes it works, but most of the time it doesn't. I mean, I loved the way Dotson was playing while Knox was injured. Dotson played great. And he made some really good plays against the Pelicans. I think he only had like 6 points, but those 6 points he earned. I mean, he had a good step-back baseline jumper. He took advantage of a mismatch. I want to see more Dotson, honestly, more than Trier and more than Moutier or Burke. It amazes me that he doesn't get more minutes. He was just so consistent when he was playing.
Yeah, he played well, had a lot of big threes for him. Young player with some skills, got some size, 6'6".
Yeah.
They got a lot of young players, and they're just kind of. I think that Fizz is just kind of working through the process to see who's there and who's got it. I mean, you take a look at two guys like Hazonia and Vonleh, and Hazonia had a good stretch, and he struggled the last few games. Vonleh is just a monster physically.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 6'10", he can shoot the three, he's pretty good in the post. He had a couple nice post moves the other night.
I don't know if he can shoot the three.
Moves.
I mean, I get so nervous every time he shoots outside the paint. I get so nervous.
And any less so than when Hazonia shoots?
Well, Hazonia will just pop it up from anywhere, and I have more faith that will go in.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't figured out whether Hazonia can shoot the ball yet or not. I know he thinks he can shoot the ball. I'm not sure if he can really shoot the ball.
He's made some deep threes. My whole thing with Noah Vonleh is I'll love him 1 minute and then hate him the next. And I'll love him because he'll get a big rebound, or he'll get a blocked shot, or he'll back someone down low and make a little hook shot. He did that against the Pelicans, and I was like, oh, this is nice. This is nice play. And then he'll go up against Anthony Davis or Julius Randle, and there's like no defense there. And I don't think it's a lack of effort. I just think it's a lack of, he's just not good defensively. Or Holiday will drive by his guy, and Vonleh is just not there to be a presence defensively, like a shot blocking presence. So it's
well, bear in mind.